Hello, how are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. So, I want to start a series here called the Seven Mountain Strategies. We'll go through, look at the different mountains, look at some different keys in that. What does it mean? Where can we fit in? Where can you and I fit into the picture? And just explore some different options. So today I want to kind of start at the beginning and look at what are the seven mountains uh, and what does that mean. So if you look and research how culture is kind of influenced, how it's formed and shaped, you find that there are seven main areas which can then be divided some more and broken down into subcategories, but seven main areas that really influence and shape culture. Culture, of course, is kind of the way life is, lifestyle, certain mindsets, understandings, certain way groups of people, nations, countries operate, and things like that, right? And so you'll find there's seven main areas that shape and kind of determine how culture thinks and acts, how people within the culture operate. And those seven areas, when you look at it, are the family, you have education, you have religion, you have business, arts and entertainment, the media, and politics. Those are the seven areas that you can really break it down, or seven main categories that you can see that shape culture. And looking at that, if you want to go into those individual categories, you have family and the certain values of a family, the certain way family operates, things that are taught within the family. That's obviously an influence, correct? Right? So, coming out of your family, you have certain aspects, certain way of thinking, a certain way of doing things, certain values because of your family, the family that you came from, and the influence of that family, and the way that family operates or didn't operate, all out of plays into the picture of how you think and how you act. And of course, when you look at culture, many families with value systems are what impact a culture in one way. You have education, and of course, what is being taught in the different levels of schooling, what is educating the people, what thought patterns, what truth is being taught, what ideas, whether truth or not, is being taught, is obviously it's what impacts people. Remember, of course, the way that you think is the way that you act, and so the thoughts and the way of thinking that's trained or taught to you affects your actions, affects culture in that way. We know religion plays a major role in shaping culture. No matter what religion is, again, it brings a certain value system. No matter what religion a nation or a people group is using, that religion comes with a certain value system, and that impacts the culture. Business, that's where the finance arena, that's where money is coming from. You cannot do anything in the world without resources, correct? And money is one of those big resources. It's not the only resource, of course, but it's a big factor. And so the connections in business, the funding that comes from business, and of course, if you're successful in business, your voice can be elevated in a culture. And so that's a number of ways that business influences. And then you have the arts and entertainment. So you have the acting, the shows, plays, sports, and all that whole arena, movies, TV shows, everything from there. Of course, if you look at the way it can impact you, the way it can cause you to think or see things and influence you, that's obviously a major impact on society, on culture, and a way to impact culture. You have media, which is more your news outlets, or between radio, newspaper, magazines, of course the internet now, different internet sites, TV, all that brings about your point of view on what is going on in the world, and shapes you, your opinions. It shapes your opinions on what you should do, what you shouldn't be doing, what you should support, what you shouldn't support, and kind of helps to dictate the growth of a culture. And then you have politics. Of course, the way the laws are set up, the way you have leaders in a certain nation, a country, in an area, that obviously impacts culture. So you have these seven. They're the basic seven formation factors of a culture. And in these seven, there's a scripture I want to quickly take you to in Isaiah chapter 2. I want to read this to you and just bring your thought there. Actually, sorry, before I do that, I'm using the term seven mountains. Bill Bright and Lauren Cunningham, those two guys got together one time, and they each had a kind of instruction from Yahweh, and they presented it to each other, and an idea about influencing culture. And kind of out of that stream, you have Lance Wallnau. He picked up on that and kind of started talking about seven mountains, defined those spheres of influence as seven mountains. Bill Bright and Lauren Cunningham had kind of their own terminology for those. Johnny Enlow also has really been speaking about seven mountains. Others call them seven spheres, seven arenas. I know we used an instruction we had at one point was 7 regions. And we did not see the full picture at that time, but we were using the terminology 7 regions for a while within the house, and working with that. But I'm going to talk 7 mountains just because of the way that Lance Wallnau and Johnny Enlow have been able to really bring light to that subject and use the terminology. I just want to use that, the mountains, as something to speak about, just so we're not using different language for the same things. So in light of that, we'll be talking about the 7 mountains. If you turn to Isaiah chapter 2, verse 2, it says, Now it shall come to pass in the latter days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established on the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and all the nations shall flow to it. Many people shall come and say, Come, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. He will teach us his ways, and we shall walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. All right, so here it says, the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established on the top of the mountains. And so these 7 mountains, they're the influence, the areas, or as Lance likes to say, the gates of influence for the culture. They're the areas of major impact and influence for the culture. And as a kingdom citizen, as a believer in God, part of our calling, a major part of our calling here on earth, is to have an impact in that. And the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established over the mountains. And so the kingdom of Yahweh is greater than those areas of influence, but to have impact in the earth, to bring about a better way of living in the earth, a way of life and love to the earth, we need to impact those 7 mountains, knowing that God's kingdom is greater than those, but that's an impact point to the earth. That's an impact point to shaping culture. That's for a long time the church has removed herself. Believers, we have removed ourselves, and we've had our own separate meetings. We've kind of removed ourselves from society and became a subculture. But we are called to impact culture, to bring life to culture, to bring hope and the way of Yahweh, his kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. So his ways, his ideas, his concepts here on earth. And that comes by influencing those gates, by influencing culture through those gates, through those mountains, and remembering that God's kingdom is greater than that, but that is a point of influence in the earth. That's a point of walking out your calling on earth in those areas. And so I just wanted to just go back and bring to light, clarify them today. Again, they're family, education, religion, business, arts and entertainment, media, and politics. And you'll find yourself, you'll find your connections, you'll find your sphere of influence within these different mountains, different streams. And we'll talk about later how they overlap and connect. But that's where you'll find a lot of us will find identity and our calling, because that's where culture's shaped, culture's formed, and we're not called to just exist on the earth to remove ourselves, but we are called to influence, to impact, to solve problems, to bring life, and to bring hope. And so that's one of the foundations of influencing culture, of shaping the thought patterns, the way people act, and treat one another and live here on earth, is through those 7 gates, 7 mountains of influence. And so there's just a little breakdown for you today, and I hope that brings some clarity for some of you. It may be a just going over information that you know already, concepts that you know already, but for others it may bring some clarity and understanding to what that is. And again, there's people using 7 spheres and all kinds of different terminology. Basically means the same thing, and we're just talking in terms of 7 mountains. So I hope you have a great day.